I want to thank my buddy Tom for this comment. Hey Tom, you know I love you. Tom serves me up what you might call a big old softball, and it's my responsibility to crush that. Tom says, please name one free market economist who claims that the free market will ever be perfect. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 eye rolls there. Aren't I so exasperating? Now, Tom is kind of right that there are probably few modern economists who profess that markets will ever be perfect. But as I mentioned in my post, perfect markets are an ideal. An ideal is something one strives for. As one strives for this ideal, one recognizes that the ideal may never be attained, but it is a guiding star, a true north. And while you might realize that you're probably never going to get there, there are always more ways to get closer to that ideal. When we talk about perfect markets, there are always more regulations that can be lifted, more taxes that can be cut, more publicly owned properties that can be sold off for private profit extraction that will get you closer to that imaginary ideal. Good old Uncle Milty, Milton Friedman, was dismissive of the idea of perfectly competitive markets. This is because by the time the neoliberals came along, those ideas were out of fashion. This is a common thing in the science of economics. Ideas go in and out of fashion like jean styles. Bell bottoms, in for young ladies. Skin-tight jeans on men, out. Low rise, hopefully coming back. Pleated jean shorts, out permanently, I hope. In the early 20th century, Vilfredo Pareto was quite trendy for coming up with the Pareto optimality, or Pareto efficiency. This is an imaginary state of equilibrium, or perfect efficiency, where an action makes an individual or small group of individuals better off, and no one ends up worse off. Pareto spent a big chunk of his career developing these ideas. These ideas about perfect efficiency still dominate. According to an article published by the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, Pareto efficiency has applications in game theory, multi-criteria decision-making, engineering, and many of the social sciences. It is a central principle in economics. But of course, my post was about neoclassical economics. Neoclassical economists, the OGs, the men who built the intellectual superstructure that forms the basis for our understanding about capitalism, talked about perfect markets a lot. Our conception of free market economics is based on what the neoclassical thinkers built. They developed the concept of general equilibrium theory. Perfect markets are defined by a set of ideal conditions known as perfect competition. This is what I was referring to when I supposedly built my grand straw man argument about perfect markets bringing about a state of economic nirvana. But Tom wants names, so let's begin with 19th century economist Leon Walras, who helped define perfect competition. Later in the 1950s, these theories were further teased out by Swedish central bank Nobel Prize winners, please see my previous post, Kenneth Arrow and Gerard Debreu. Those were real economists. So that's 4 names without even trying very hard. But Tom will predictably remind me none of these were free market economists. So how about Eugene Fama, another Chicago School Nobel Prize winner? He doesn't believe in perfect markets per se. Instead, he says the market is perfect already. Fama gave us the efficient markets hypothesis, which tells us that financial markets are never wrong. Every share price perfectly reflects all publicly available information about a given asset. Now, you don't have to be a jaded day trader to realize that this idea is absurd. To say that the market can never be wrong is to say that the market is infallible. Omniscience and infallibility are the domain of gods. By declaring that the market is all-knowing and can never be wrong, economists have moved firmly out of science and into religious faith. Of course, the market is not infallible, but why should reality ever get in the way of a good economic hypothesis? These ideas about perfect markets, which are based in abstraction and ivory tower theory, are baked into free market economics. You can no more remove these ideas or ideals from this strain of economics than you can take the egg or flour out of a birthday cake when you're getting ready to blow out the candles. There is more to learn from capitalism's critics than its cheerleaders. Karl Marx spent his life examining capitalism. He read and wrote extensively about Adam Smith and David Ricardo and everything else he could get his hands on to understand how capitalism worked and where it breaks down. We still talk about Marx today because he is one of history's greatest critics of capitalism. This is why he's still a threat. This is why Marxist or Marxism are still thrown around like they're dirty words. Capitalism's cheerleaders only want us to have positive associations with their favorite brand of economics. The free market faithful want us to believe, like they do, that there's only one true way to run an economy. They want us to believe that there are no alternatives. And don't forget that belief is a word of faith. Exposing the assumptions that the free market faith is built on is a valid way of criticizing capitalism, and free market fundamentalists hate that. There's a quote that perfectly encapsulates how ridiculous it is to build your economic philosophy around flawed assumptions the way capitalism does. British economic historian Robert Skidelsky said, "Lunatic premises lead to mad conclusions." That's the truth, and the world we live in today is proof. We are living with those mad conclusions, a society teetering on the edge of oblivion because of lunatic premises like the ones I described in my last post. Let's make them pay.